just the worry going into the season, of course, was the defense. And, it's still a very, very leaky secondary, but, we talked about the horrible run defense in the first 6 weeks of the season, and how bad the run fits were, and, how much USC was getting gashed. And that's been fixed. Like it's now the secondary. The secondary was fine in the first 6 games. And now that's the sieve on this defense. But Alex Grinch has done a great job of plugging up this run defense. Zach Charbonnet didn't go off against UCLA. And the big worry against Notre Dame was, the Irish grinding the clock, 8-minute drives, keeping the ball away from Caleb Williams. Didn't happen. Time of possession went to USC big, 35-23 or 35-23 to 24-37, basically 10 and a half minutes in favor of USC. And the run pass mix, USC 39 runs, 22 passes, man. So for all the USC fans who wondered if Lincoln Riley would lean on the running game and it would embrace the old student body right tradition that's part of the old style USC culture, this was your night. So a lot of old time Trojan fans, I know, not only reveled in the win over Notre Dame and not only reveled in the first sweep of UCLA and Notre Dame since 2016 under Sam Darnold, they reveled in the way this was done with the run and with 5-minute clock chewing drives in the fourth quarter to just shrink the margins for Notre Dame and prevent the Irish from having a real foothold late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, certainly we went into this one knowing where USC's advantages lay, but for them to be the more physical team and to really hold up against the Notre Dame ground attack, and then for Austin Jones and that offensive line really to be a battering ram in the fourth quarter in particular was quite impressive when a team can go to different components to lean on and not just be a one-trick pony that it's all Caleb Williams and a bunch of elite receivers.
No doubt. I mean, and the fact that USC showed a different way of winning, this wasn't Star Wars. I mean, Caleb Williams made highlight level plays, but those were more improvisational plays. There were a few scripted plays like the Lake McCree one that I mentioned, and Taj Washington made a particularly spectacular catch in traffic. But this was more about pounding the rock and asserting superiority up front with an offensive line that continues to do its job. There is a point of concern that Andrew Voorhees left this game in the second half. Going to be interesting to see how he is. This is a short week. And I see, Tim Prangley, our friend and collaborator, and, I joined him and Tony Altamore and Rick Anaya for the post-game show on Saturday, which was great as always. I know I see Tim in the comments, saying, this line of, USC favored by just 1.5 points. It's odd. I think it comes from UCLA and Notre Dame were very draining games. Like those were big, high-level games, and now you have a short week. True. And you have to come right back. And Utah just played Colorado. And what did we say about USC UCLA on the 19th? USC played Colorado the week before. Perfect lead-in for that game. You could essentially just start game planning for UCLA right after playing Cal on November 5th. You don't have to do film study for Colorado. Basically, it's a 2-week ramp up for preparation. So Utah has that same benefit. When Utah finished with Oregon, obviously it didn't expect to be in the Pac-12 title game, but it knew that USC would be the opponent if it got there. So I'm sure that Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley and Andy Ludwig, they all started looking at USC film after the Oregon game because they didn't have to study intensely for Colorado. They could look at USC if they got there. And thanks to Oregon State and an epic duck meltdown, they did get there. So Utah did not have to overextend itself last week. And I think that's a big piece of why this Vegas line is as small as it is. I know that Utah's banged up, and that's why a lot of USC fans think that, hey, this game is ours to win. And I understand that. But that is the one big advantage Utah does have. Utah just played Colorado, was able to kind of mentally coast into this game. And now Utah can gear up, make this its second Super Bowl of the season, just like the first one against USC, whereas the Trojans have just finished the UCLA Notre Dame double stack. and that's emotionally involving. And maybe, you know, the Trojans are just a little bit flat in this game. Like, that's a very realistic possibility, and that's why I'm not, you know, super confident about this game. I realize that it sets up well for USC on a lot of levels, but the short week and Utah having played Colorado, like, that should definitely be a concern for Trojan fans.
I'm in the process of putting together a series of statistics that not only match up USC and Utah, and I'd love to get your perspective on the first matchup and what went right, what went wrong, and we know the officiating in particular, but the other, I think it's 7 matchups of common opponents, and obviously some of them are much more meaningful, UCLA in particular, than others. But yeah, the Colorado game, looking at what Utah was able to do against Colorado, my goodness, they had a 477-yard advantage in that game. You rarely see anything like that. They had 20 more first downs than Colorado in that game. Yeah, they basically had just a layup in preparation for USC. So that's a great point that you make in regards to the odds makers' perspective on this game, coming off 2 daunting games for USC and the short week. So